Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Bold You, a show that is dedicated to inspiring everyone out there. And yes, I do mean you, to play bigger in your life. And here's the message. I promise you, it is so much easier to play bigger because you get results faster. We want to inspire you to be bolder, which means you've got to step out of your comfort zones. You're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And believe me, you can. I promise you. So you can really become the best version of yourself. I believe that we live in a world where there is a war between good and evil. It's been that way for as long as we've been alive, and it's going to continue that way. And the only way evil wins is when good people don't do enough. So we have got to really up our game. So every week on Mondays at 3 p.m. Central, we have incredible guests that come and share their gifts, their talents, their stories, because so many people try to judge people at their beginning or closer to their end. And in reality, what it takes to get you to really where you want to be, it just takes time. So I am more than happy and excited to share with you our guest today, Miss Amanda Kaufman. There she is, Amanda. All right, now would you look at this beautiful headshot? Amanda Kaufman is a certified high-performance coach, core energy leader, and the creator of the Crush Method, a proven approach to take the clientless coach to a thriving practice and beyond as they build their expert business. And she's also just a dear friend of mine, and I'm so excited to have you, Amanda.
Well, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. So, I'm the one in the room that I like to ask 20 questions and then some. Mm-hmm. My husband is like, Jen, stop. But I think every person has a story, and I think it's so empowering for people to share their story because we have to inspire people, and they say, gosh, I was just like Amanda. Or some of what she's saying is what I'm going through right now. So before we get into this amazing topic that you've prepared for today, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and some of your most favorite stories to tell.
Sounds good. So coming from Canada, I talk a little differently than my friends here in Texas. I grew up in the Arctic, and it was a very small town. So a small town girl. Mm-hmm. And
I mean, when you say small, how small? Was there one light?
There was one
stoplight,
and it was a gift.
It always is. It always is. So you didn't even need the stoplight.
Definitely not. It was one of those very walkable towns. It was between 3,000 and 3,500 people.
Yes.
And my mom and dad are still there. So hi, Mom.
Yes.
Hi, Dad.
They have to watch. And what's the name of the city again, or the town?
The town is Inuvik, Northwest Territories in Canada.
Okay. So everybody from that location, give us a shout out in the comments when you're sharing the video all over the place.
Exactly. They may be on my Facebook.
Hey, all 3,000 of them are watching right now, I think, Amanda.
Potentially.
So you were born there. You have siblings?
Yes, I've got 3 younger siblings. Mm-hmm. I think I'm like a lot of people in that I have a complicated family tree.
Right, of course.
I grew up with 3 younger siblings. Mm-hmm. I have 2 sisters and a brother, and they're all younger than me.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm an oldest child.
Well, okay, and so do you think what is said about the oldest child is true?
Hands down.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
you heard
absolutely.
It. You heard it here. It's been confirmed by Amanda Kaufman.
Not scientific, but I will tell you that it's really interesting, like the driving and the perfectionism and all that kind of thing.
Did your parents make you drive the younger ones around all the time?
Oh, totally. As
Yeah.
soon as I got my driver's license, mom was like, I need this. I need this. And I'm like, I
Right.
just got back. And she's like, you need practice.
But don't you think so? Here's what I think is so important is what we did as children and growing up, it really does prepare and groom us for what we do as adults. I mean, it shapes our philosophies, it shapes that work ethic. And I do think when you're older, you are you got to do more. I mean, don't you think? I mean, you have to do more. And then the babies just get to just the parents are tired by that time.
No kidding. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about this a lot today, but the habits that you get into, it's the thinking habits, the way of looking at the world habits, all of these habits really form this foundation that you find yourself in so that you wind up where you are based on
Your habits.
everything that you've done to this date. And so much of that starts childhood.
Oh, you know that it does. So what's the age difference between you and your closest sibling?
She is 6 years younger than me.
Okay. Oh, so there is a big gap.
Bit of a gap.
There's a gap. I mean, that's not typical. And then your other two.
The other two are 10 years and 12 years younger.
Wow. Okay.
So,
All right. So you really are the
the
big boss.
actual
Amanda,
oldest.
you're the big boss. You're the big boss. Now, where are they? Do they live still in Canada?
They all live in Canada, and my let's see. So the two youngest are still in university, and they're going to school in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm so proud of them.
Right.
And my other sister, she's been out for a little while, and she's working in Calgary. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you get back to Canada much?
not that often. I
Right.
usually lure them here.
Right. It's probably more fun to come here, right?
Well, I find good reasons. I find really good reasons.
You kind of bribe them to come down here.
Well, I have
It's
babies.
warmer. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right?
You've got the babies.
I've got babies, so I tell them to come and see my babies.
Well, how did you get down here and how long have you been here?
I moved here about 8 years ago, and I moved here for love.
Right.
So my husband and I, we were consultants. That's a whole nother story, but we met in Calgary in Canada. And I ended up moving here because he was a bit of a no-brainer in terms of I
You're
have
like,
to be with
duh.
him.
You're like, duh, this one is it. He's the one.
Yeah. So just move to a new country, get the job, all that. Yeah, sure, cool. We'll figure it out.
But you came to the States via California, correct?
Via Calgary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was a consultant. I worked for 10 years at a really big consulting firm. And I was so fortunate because I was able to transfer with the same company.
That's great.
To Texas.
That's great.
that
So
was
you
really
went
cool.
right from Calgary here
Straight here.
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Golly. And did you come to this area?
You
So
bet.
you've been in this area for 8 years now.
For 8 years, yes.
And you're not leaving. We're not letting you.
No, I'm addicted now.
Yeah, she's amazing. Just wait till we start getting into all this other great stuff that we're going to talk about. But yeah, so now you're here. So you were with that company, and what made you decide that you're married? You and your husband, you two are so awesome together. How long have you been married?
About 7 years.
Okay, they are so adorable, and he's got this big beard. And I'm telling you right now, one of my clients has beard products. I had no idea what a big deal these beards were, folks.
It's a thing.
It's a thing, and it's a really big deal. I'm learning all of this, and I've got some beard products for your husband.
Oh, he's going to be so thrilled. No kidding.
I'm not
On my way
kidding you.
here, he told me he couldn't talk on the phone right now because he was getting his beard touched up.
I was blown away. Not until you start to get involved in something do you really understand the ins and outs of it, which is really why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because you and I we're similar in that we're kind of personal development geeks, and we're all about planning, and we're all about helping people succeed and grow because we love it.
We do.
And I can't wait to get into some of those the programs that you've developed, and really kind of what has shaped you to be the type of coach that you are. So we mentioned the crush method. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the crush method was an accident at first, like all great ideas.
Exactly.
And it came about because I was making the transition from corporate to corporate consulting to starting my own business. And I'm 5th generation entrepreneur, but having it in the blood does not make you prepared to have a business.
No kidding, right?
So I found that there were things that were working and things that were not working. And so the CRUSH method is basically 5 principles of choosing things that work. So the C is for clear. The R is repeatable. I'm all about process. U is urgency. So do it right now. The S is strategy. And I think about strategy a little differently. Strategy is the decision making that we make about the resources we have to get the best result possible. It's not just this airy-fairy, high level thinking, I'm in my throne and I'm just going to strategize.
Right. No.
It's hard work.
It is hard work.
And then, of course, helpful. Because when you always come from this perspective of helpful,
what I think is so important is there are so many people in the world and everybody needs help. You can't succeed alone, and that is by design. I say that all the time because when people are out trying to succeed on their own and they're not succeeding, they're having issues, they're getting depressed, they're feeling badly about themselves, they start to feel like, oh gosh, something's wrong with me and I won't be able to succeed. All the negative self-talk starts to bog people down, but that's by design. So I tell people all the time is, look, if you're trying to figure it out on your own, don't do that, because there are people that have written books. There are people that have spent their lives studying, researching, doing, and successful people always want to help other people succeed. They just do.
It's true.
So when you left that corporate consulting role, and when you left it, did you know exactly what it is that you were going to do, or did you kind of stumble into that?
I knew that I wanted to help people to build lives that they were proud of. I knew I wanted to help people with what I call total life design, because as a consultant, I had 3 kids at the time, and
now you have 4.
And now I have 4 because started a business too.
You were at home more.
Exactly, all that extra time.
She was at home more, not at the office.
Exactly. So that's so funny. I actually formed my LLC when my baby was about 2 weeks old.
That's what happens. I mean, it just happens.
That's how it happens. But truly, as a consultant, I was on the road every single week. I would get on a plane Monday morning and I would fly home Thursday night. And a lot of people think, well, you really can't have a family if you're doing that. You really can't have a fulfilling relationship if you do that. You really can't, you can't. And
right.
If there's one thing I really don't love, it's being told I can't do something.
Well, here's the thing is when people say you can't do something, they're just projecting their limitations onto you. Because here's the fact, we are limitless. So you can do anything. Now, it might take you some time, and typically it does. That's another one of my sayings, success happens in decades, because it doesn't happen overnight. But if you will put the work into it and you find the right leaders to hitch your wagon to, you're going to be able to do anything. And don't you just wish you're a strong person and you're a successful person. But don't you just feel for so many people that don't have that self-confidence yet because they haven't experienced the success? And when other people say, oh, you can't do that, you can't do that. Well, for you, it spurred you because of who you are. But then I just think of all the people that they're not at that development level, and you're dream crushers when you say that, and you just can't do that. You cannot do that to people. Don't put your limitations on other people.
That's so true. And if I'm being completely real, it was me. I thought I had those limitations, and I thought nobody can do this and nobody can do that.
I love it that you shared that, Amanda.
Totally.
Right.
I mean, the master was once a disaster is a phrase that I heard recently, and I'm like, oh, that's so perfect.
Because it's the truth.
It's very true. There is a reason I'm obsessed with personal development, because I wasn't all that developed.
Well, and this is really important. This is a big takeaway. I mean, you're going to get a lot of takeaways from Amanda, but I think that you said it. The master was once a disaster. That's how it is for everybody. And one of the things that I'm doing, this is really interesting. I was telling Amanda right before the show is starting in 2019, I facilitate a mastermind, and every month we read a book. Well, I was doing a presentation on Tuesday, and I was telling them about how in January we're going to read the same book I'm reading in my mastermind. And a guy, Terry, I love you, came up to me, and I was like, well, why don't I start that right now in December? So I picked one of my most favorite books, and this is The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And literally, Amanda, and she can vouch for me, there's 61 pages, y'all. 61 pages in this book. You can read this book, I promise you, in one time. You sit down. Now, it's really going to take you more than one time because it's pretty deep. But the personal development, when did you start it? What are some of your favorite books, and how has it shaped you to where you are right now?
Oh, man. So remember when I said I wasn't all that personal development-y? When I was a consultant, I bought into this idea that you really have to outwork everyone in order to perform. Mm-hmm. And the way the performance metrics work, and this is so common everywhere really, right, is that you want to outperform your peers so that you can demonstrate that you're ready for that next level, that next paycheck, that next thing, right?
Right.
Success.
That's the normal corporate gig.
That's the normal gig. So I really pushed myself to the physical limit of that. And long story short, landed in depression.
Because you're a perfectionist, are you not?
I am a recovering
perfectionist.
Yes.
And you're amazing. You are an amazing person. But I'm not as hard on myself. And I think that's the big lesson is so many people are really hard on themselves. Yes. So you got into a state of depression.
Yeah, I was just stuck. I was working hours and hours and hours. It was really quite obsessive, just pulling open the laptop any second I got pretty much to respond to one more email and do one more thing.
Right.
And fortunately, I had people around me that said, you know what? You might want to be able to enjoy a Saturday or two.
Right.
You know what? This isn't what life is supposed to be about. So I got help with the depression. And then the thing is, though, I really still wanted to succeed.
And you're like, and here's our topic, because it was your habit.
It was my habit.
It was your habit to work nonstop. It was your habit to say, I've got to be perfect. I got to be perfect. It was your habits that said, I have to outperform people and others. And so you started reading.
I started reading, and my very first book, and it's still one of my favorites, is The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin.
Okay, I haven't read that one. I have to read it.
Good.
The Happiness
Project. Now, I was recovering from depression. So at the time, I thought that depression and happiness are opposite of each other.
Right.
They're not, by the way. It's
good.
Disengaged and engaged. That's the difference, not happy or sad. But anyway, didn't know that. Still my favorite book.
Right.
And I found out that happiness really is a choice. And what was really fun about her book is she took every month of the year. I think you really like that, Jens. She took every month of the year and she did a project that was specifically designed to improve her happiness.
That's so awesome.
It would just totally change my life.
Because first of all, if you're out there who can relate to this, who can relate to trying to be perfect, trying to do everything just so, and trying to outperform other people, and who can relate to the fact that so many people don't realize that happiness really is a choice. One of the things that I'm involved with is the happiness movement, and I'm actually the International Day of Happiness wall captain, and I co-chair that with a wonderful woman named Deb Johnson, and we do that with the company Live Happy. And one of the reasons why that is so important to me is happiness really does precede good health. It precedes success. It precedes people living lives of contribution, because you are amazing. I mean, Amanda has got so many strengths and so many talents. But if you're depressed and you're out of the game, you're not blessing the world with all those gifts and talents. And that's why I'm just a big proponent of happiness. I'm a happiness ambassador. That's really what our titles are, happiness ambassadors. So you learned, okay, happiness is a choice. I'm not feeling so happy right over here. It means that I'm falling into some habits and I'm choosing not to be happy. So, what was the determining factor to get you out of that?
So many things. So this is where being a nerd pays off. Because just like Gretchen Rubin did, I started experimenting. And, you know, if I was to just prescribe one magic pill, because there is no magic pill,
That's
but if there was
exactly right.
one magic
There's
pill to
no
happiness,
magic pills.
the first one I would prescribe to you is sleep.
That's a good point.
Yes, because if you get the sleep, you get the energy to do anything else in your life. So
Well-
it's literally, I would say, the first thing to do.
Okay, so make sure that you're sleeping out there. Now, y'all don't monitor me because I'm already happy. So I think I'm okay on that. So keep going.
Yeah, you know, so sleep is absolutely huge, and your physiological health is huge. And trust me, it's hard. It is hard to implement those kinds of habits. But truly, it's those day-to-day little things that we do that create this environment for happiness and for increasing our subjective well-being.
Now, did you have any just people that you admired, you had as role models that got you through that time and helped you establish really what you're doing right now, which is, we're going to get into that because you're going to love it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually collect mentors. So I'm a big believer that if you have mentors, you should definitely hitch your wagon to like to quote you, Jens. But I like having lots of wagons because there
You
will be
have to.
things that, you know, I love about Jens.
Right.
Jens is a mentor of mine. There's, you know, Sandra Yancey's
Yes.
a mutual mentor. Brendan Burchard is another big mentor of mine. And, you know, I've got mentors that are way down the path and I've got mentors that are right near me. Like
Right,
real
because
close.
you have to have people and you have to have real leaders that you really aspire to be like, because here's the thing is there's some amazing people out there, but there's got to be some congruency with who you hitch your wagon to.
Exactly.
But here's the great thing is there's so many real leaders that you can hitch your wagon to.
Totally. And
You
think
have
of
to
it-
have multiple, like you said.
Yeah, it's like a mosaic or a patchwork quilt. You know, you're just pulling your favorite bits out of all these people.
That's exactly
and
right.
injecting yourself with them. So
I
then you
love
become your
that.
favorite person.
I know. And then your quilt is just a compilation of all these great people, but it's yours and it's different. It's just like your fingerprint is different and your heart print and your soul print is different. But what makes you is really the associations that you've decided, because success is a decision, to associate. But so somebody makes this decision to succeed and they're on their way doing what they think they should do. And lo and behold, they fall back, they default back to who they are because what's going on, Amanda? Let's talk about that. Can you relate to that?
I can definitely relate to that. So, you know, the habits that we have, you know, we've been talking about that a little bit. They're really our default programming. And, you know, Ziggy, is it okay if you just put that slide up there? Because when I learned this, and I learned this,
changed
another
your life.
book that changed my life was Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit. So if you haven't read that one, definitely do.
I have read that one.
So this is basically how habits work. So you can see that we've got this trigger on the left. So the trigger is something happens, and that something could be, you know, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. It could be a thought occurred to you. It could be that you saw some kind of a color or you had some kind of a scent. It's a trigger, right? And what happens is then we execute a routine based on that trigger occurring. It's morning, time to pour my coffee, right?
Right.
And we get some kind of a reward. And then what happens is that we reinforce that routine over time, that every time that trigger occurs, we execute the routine, we get some kind of a reward. And what drives all of that is this desire to feel good. So Charles Duhigg called this a craving. We have this craving, so it kind of spins this wheel. And I'm not ist of any kind, not a
Right.
psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, or anything.
Right.
But what I was showing with the brain slide, Ziggy, if you don't mind, is that at the front of the brain, that yellow part, that's our prefrontal cortex, right?
Right.
And that's where we do a lot. That's our logic and our focus. That's where that occurs. And you can kind of think of it like once we get good at a routine and we've reinforced it enough,
Right.
it programs it back at the more base part of the brain. So what's important about that is that's the first part of the brain that evolved for us as a species.
Right.
So when you think about rewards,
Exactly.
here's something really huge to know.
This is a big deal, y'all. Listen up.
The game changer.
Here's the game changer.
The game changer is that the reward is actually your lizard brain kind of reward, right? So that's why it's so hard to lose weight, because the lizard brain doesn't care about a number on a scale.
It doesn't. It's exactly right.
It does not care. But you know what it like? You know what it likes? It likes dopamine.
Yes, exactly.
It likes approval.
Exactly. But you know, see, that's when people really start to dig into the brain, then you start to realize why everything happens the way it does. And you know what people don't realize is 96% of what a person thinks every day is exactly the same. You think the same thing today, yesterday, the day before, and we actually, those habits and those thoughts are actually engraved into our brains.
Yes.
So you can never outperform your thoughts.
It's so
you
true.
can never, ever outperform your thoughts. And to have different results, you have to retrain your brain literally. You have to literally retrain your brain. But you know, the first thing is people have to be aware. They have to understand. So that's what I love with what you do. And I think you've got, even in some of your programs that when you're working with your clients, you discuss that. So what are some of the techniques and things that you do to help retrain people's brains?
Well, the first thing is awareness, right? And you can bring awareness to yourself, you know, with books and education. I love coaching. Like, I really love coaching. The Crush method, I developed it for coaches because I want more people to have coaches.
Absolutely.
So I'm helping coaches get better at being in front of people. So if you have an opportunity to talk to a coach, definitely do, because those habits that you have, you might become aware of something because you took a course or something like that, but you still have that filter. You still have those patterns going on that you can't see things literally can't see things that you're not used to seeing.
Yeah, right, because you can't see what you can't see, and you don't know what you don't know. But here's the facts. You don't know everything, and you can't see everything. You have blind spots. So it's so important that you're with people. And I will tell you, this is a personal story, you know, with anytime you have a relationship that you really care about, and you're upset, whether it's a friend relationship, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with a parent, whether it's with an employer or employee, whatever it is, and you're upset about something, you're upset because of the way you are looking at that situation. That's all there is to it.
Absolutely.
So when you find coaches and mentors and advisors and people that listen, that you want their advice, because please don't take advice from people that you wouldn't trade places with in your life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on now. There are a lot of people that you would never want to trade places with, and they're giving you advice, and you're listening to it. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. But there was something that I was upset about something. And I went to somebody that I admire and that I trust. And I said, look, I want to tell you this story. I want to tell you what I'm thinking. And I want you to give me a different perspective. But then I also want you to give me some ideas of how to deal with it differently. Because I knew it was my fault that I was upset about it. But that's key, because that's awareness. You have to realize that if you're upset about something, it's the way you're thinking about it. And it was something that had been such a deep-seated, long habit. You know, I was thinking about something in the same way for so long that it was a habit. And so having this awareness, like the slide that you just showed, I knew it was a habit. I knew it was me, but I couldn't break it by myself because I couldn't see it. And when this gentleman shared with me a different perspective and gave me different tools to use to implement. It has changed my life, Amanda.
Oh my gosh, I don't doubt it for a second.
And I'm sure that what has transpired with you, and what is why you love doing what you do, working with people. And it's the same. I love doing what I do because people don't realize it's your habits. Your thoughts are habits, and your thoughts create your emotions and your energy. And that's one of the things that you work with too is
Absolutely.
energy. You know, explain to people a little bit about energy and how important it is.
It's so important. And so I'm a chemical engineer by background, and I'm a straight up nerd. I like doing process, I like linear things and math.
Right.
So for me to
She's
turn
got
around,
a yardstick right here. I'm telling you, I'm just kidding.
right? There was a template for that. So, I thought I would be the last person on the planet to get into, energy and those kinds of practices. The thing is that what it does is gives you language.
Right.
And so, what I teach people is that when we experience an energy of something, and I know you've felt this before.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's either catabolic or anabolic.
Right.
So if it's anabolic, it's joy, it's fun, it's flow. Yes. Right. And we love that feeling. We want more of that. When it's catabolic, it tends to be kind of heavy and slow. And so as a core energy coach, I'm trained in a modality that I can help you, one, identify what energy level you are experiencing, that mixture of those two energy wavelengths. And then most importantly, help equip you with the choice to shift that energy. And it is a choice.
I love that because, people don't, I know people know this because you can feel other people's energy, but I'm going to tell you something. My husband, this had to have been maybe a year or two ago, and I'm not kidding. So, and he should know this, but he did not know this. And we were talking about energy and I said, yeah, we're balls of energy. That's what we are. I mean, if they put electrodes on our brains, that we would get an energy reading. And so I said, Dave, just put your hand up to my hand. We did the E. And I said, tell me when you can feel my energy. He had never had anybody do that with him. And so it was, we're going. And of course, I could feel his energy so far out. And it was like, right up here before he could feel my energy. And I'm like, no wonder, Dave, you can't feel people's energy.
Right.
But you can feel people's energy. And so when you go into a room or you're associating with people, you think, because you know this, you can feel people's energy, but there's a lot of people out there that will, they'll be around people and they'll just be like, oh man, they're not feeling that great. And they don't realize it's the energy from other people that's impacting them.
Truly, energy attracts energy. And that works anabolic and catabolic.
Yes,
it works both ways.
It's like a magnet.
It is. It is. And what I love about it is whether you look at energy as being literally, balls of energy. I like to think of it as kind of like the Force in Star Wars. But what it is doesn't so much matter as the fact that it does transpire that way. So when you find yourself in a very, I call it like a catabolic state.
Right.
And you know that you're in that state, by the way, if you feel like nothing you do is going to work,
right,
or you feel like you've got to fight to survive, that's kind of big signals that you're experiencing a lot of that very heavy energy.
Right.
You can actually change your social setting, your environment, maybe tidy up around you. You can change your mental state, you can change your emotional state, your physical state. There's all these different things that you can do that helps you shift that energy to a more anabolic place, or that place where you get choices again.
Right, exactly.
About what's going to happen. When you feel like you're a victim of something, then you don't feel like you have a choice. So then what do you do?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. You don't do anything. And so Amanda, she uses all the big words, but this is what I call it. I call it the funk. When you have the funk, people have the funk. And do you know that my older sister and I mean, for years, I literally can't remember how many years. And Dawn, if you're watching this, maybe you can remind me. I cannot tell you how many years we would call it the funk, the funk. And she would call me and I would say, Dawn, you're in the funk. And she's like, I know I'm in the funk. I'm in the funk, and we would talk through it. But it wasn't until I really started my personal development journey, and my master's degree is in training and development. And we didn't talk about the funk when I was in graduate school. But it was when I started my personal development journey with reading and getting coaches and mentors and advisors and talking with other like-minded people and just really going on that journey. And I was blown away when I heard the very first other person was Jeff Olson, who I love Jeff Olson, when he started to talk about the funk. And I mean, literally, I was telling my sister, I'm like, there are other people call it the funk too. I mean, other people are experiencing the exact same thing.
Totally.
But when you're experiencing it, you don't realize that you can get out of it. And some of the things that you said, I think it's really important that people realize is, I say action is always the answer. And I even say, imperfect action, because a lot of times people are afraid to make the wrong choice. And what I tell people is all a decision does is it moves you forward. Mm-hmm. And if it's not the right choice, it's not going to work. Okay. So don't worry about it. It just moves you forward, but you got to get into action. And some of the things and the tactics that you just shared is clean your environment. Go do something. I work out. Like I'm telling you what, I go work out, go serve other people.
Oh, that's huge.
Just do action, and you can act your way out of that energy. But if you stay in that energy, to your point, you're just going to stay on the couch eating bonbons and
you'll attract it.
Exactly.
It'll start coming to you. You will literally bring other people around with that same energy.
Right.
They're going to go, oh, you're just like me.
Yeah, it's like misery loves company.
Misery loves company. There's truth to
there
it,
is.
for sure.
There's truth to all those sayings, Mm-hmm. But one of your favorite quotes from Benjamin Franklin is, energy and persistence conquers all.
So true.
Because there you go. You've got great energy. You do the action. You stay persistent, and there's nothing you're not going to be able to achieve.
It's so true. I was actually chatting with my trainer this morning, speaking of working out. And I was working on my deadlift, and I was able to get a bigger weight this summer, but then I had interruptions and everything like this. And so I didn't lift as much as I wanted to lift, and he could see that I was kind of psyching myself out of it. Right. And I said,
no, not you, Amanda.
Don't you worry about it. I said, you know what? I'm going to get it. Just maybe not today, but I'm going to get it.
Right, exactly.
Right, because I'm going to get my energy in a better place, and I'm going to come back. I'm just going to do it again.
One of the things that I say all that we talk to ourselves in our head. I mean, you're talking to yourself all the time, and I remember when I was divorced, I was a single mom of 3 kids, and it wasn't always easy at that point in my life. But I would say to myself, literally over and over and over and over again, I would say, it's not always going to be like this. It's not always going to be like this. It's not always going to be like this, because it's not. It will not. But the reverse is true also.
So true.
I mean, I've had some amazing, great times in my life, just you name it, amazing, wonderful, and great. And I will say to myself, it's not always going to be this. Because I'm preparing myself for the dip, because the dip is going to happen. Life isn't all the way up, and life's not all the way down, and life's not like this. It's up and down and up and down and up and down. And so I enjoy and I embrace everything, and I'm grateful for all things, because most of the time it's in those dips that you learn a lot.
You learn the most in the dips, 100%. 100%.
And I think all of this really, to me, goes right along with my Ask Jen's question for this week. And I love it that I have this incredible person on the show with me, because I want to know your insight as well. But the Ask Jen's question this week is, what can I do to get different results in my life? And I'm going to tell you what I think is the most important thing that you can do to get different results in your life is hitch your wagon to real leaders. If you don't work with a coach, if you don't have a business consultant, if you don't have somebody that's advising you as a mentor in your life, find one. It will make all the difference in the world because you cannot outperform your thoughts. So it's really exactly what we've been talking about.
100%.
I mean, what would you add to that?
Well, we've been talking about habits.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And success is
A
basically
habit.
your habits. And whatever you've been doing to date has landed you exactly where you are. You know, so learning to take 100% responsibility.
100%.
And that is so hard. Trust me. Like when I get into it with my dear husband, I want him to take all the responsibility. I don't want to take all the
That's the
responsibility.
hardest relationship, I think.
It's so hard. And right, learning from successful people and even in relationships. I think sometimes we talk a lot about this in business.
But
find that couple that you're like, wow, I want to be like that couple. You don't have to tell them that like you're my couple mentor.
Right,
but
right.
learn what habits they have and then do that.
I think that's really very important because we talk a lot about business just in general, and I'm talking about not just the two of us, but in general because that's more comfortable to talk about.
Sure, it's safe.
It's a safe place, but let's face it, if you're not happy in your personal life, and you deserve to be happy in your personal life, if you're not happy in your personal life, it's a challenge. And I'm a faith-based person, and so I think the family is always being attacked. And I love that you said, if you are together with your significant other, whether you're married or you're not married, but this is somebody that you've chosen to do life with, either for the rest of your life, for eternity, or for right now. I don't care. I mean, you've got
No judgment.
No judgment at all. But you've got to have a couple that you look up to. I mean, that's so important, Amanda. That right there, I mean, we've gotten a ton of nuggets from you today, but that's huge. And that is definitely, if you want different results, you've got to change the people that you're associating with or bring people in because you're trying to do it by yourself.
It's so true.
I think it is so true.
The first 6 months of my business went precisely nowhere because I sat at home in my little desk and tried
planning it all by yourself.
Planning it all by myself. It was a beautiful plan, and I had no clients.
But I think that's so true for any person. And it's such a lesson that you can't just plan all by yourself in your own head and think it's going to work. And you've got to be coachable, because I know a lot of people that have some extreme talents and they're doing it by themselves, or they're doing it with people, but they're still doing it by themselves because they're not coachable. And I just think, gosh, with your gifts and your talents, you should be further along than you are. But they're not listening to people.
Right. When we stop opening ourselves up to what that next most successful habit is, one of my other favorite things to say is, what got you here won't get you there.
100%.
Right?
100%. And I love it. And this is what's so crazy is, I could talk to you all day long, Amanda. I mean, this is what happens when we get on the phone. We get on the phone and we're just, we can't stop talking, because you are a gift. And I'm so glad that you got past that depression. And I'm really honored that you shared that with people, because a lot of times people don't want to share their struggles with others. But it's vitally important, because everybody has struggles. Everybody has struggles. And you've got to be transparent if you really want to help this world become a better place. We've got to be transparent with one another, and then we have to always laugh as well. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do is laugh, and you're the same way.
Absolutely, bring the joy.
You know, there are 3 words that I think describe me perfectly, and that is leadership, laughter, and love. I mean, I am at the core of who I am. I am a leader. I'm a leadership nerd. I've been in leadership roles and went to leadership camps when I was an adolescent, because I love people. I love to laugh. I just don't think you can have any better medicine. And literally, if you laugh, a really hard laugh helps boost your immune system it's 24 or 48 hours. And when you're sad, that this is just not going to do anything good for you. I'll get the stats and I'll put the stats because it just went out my head. But here's one thing, if you know Tony Robbins and you know a lot of the other very successful motivational speakers and coaches, what they do is they get people to jump up and down. They get people to do all these fun, silly things. Some coaches will have you do things to basically get out of your comfort zone. Like, okay, go walk over there and ask this person XYZ. If you think somebody is attracted, go up, even if you're married, but you're not going to go hit on them. But if you think somebody's attractive, go up to them and start a conversation, because basically it's just getting you out of your comfort zones. But to me, it's laughter, doing things that make you laugh. So this past weekend, I had a holiday party I facilitate a mastermind, and we had our mastermind people there, also some of my clients and my husband and I's business partners, and we did it special. And then this year, I've got a great friend of mine, and you know her as well, Christy Phillips, who is a singer extraordinaire. She's amazing. And I said, hey, Christy, I want you to sing at the party, but I also want you to facilitate karaoke. And let me tell you that from the moment we started with her singing, and she's incredible. I co-host her show, So Very Christy, Beauticians and Musicians, right before this show. So I get to listen to her sing all the time. But from the time she started to sing to the time people left, which was, we had to kind of push them out, because everybody wanted to stay and sing. It was amazing. But here is a little bit of the fun that we had when you put laughter as a priority in your life.
Any way the wind blows doesn't really matter to me. Okay, you gotta get this. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head. Pull the trigger, now he's dead. Mama, life has just begun, but now I've gone and thrown it all away. Mama, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, it doesn't really matter. I'm in big time trouble. I shot a man. Going down, it's too late. My time has come. Send shivers down my spine. Body's aching all the time. Goodbye, everybody. I've got to go. Gotta leave you all behind and face the truth. Mama, I don't wanna die. Sometimes I wish I'd never been born at all. Carry on, because it's tonight.
Okay, so what was so hysterical about that is I could not put that microphone down, Amanda. It was
like glued to your hand.
It was glued to my hand. I did share it, obviously, with everybody. So everybody did the karaoke. But then when everybody left, Ziggy, you would love this because Ziggy's always got a microphone, basically. I just said, you know what? I think that I just want to have a microphone and in the morning wake Dave up saying, honey, get up, it's time. So I started following him around the house, with the microphone. And it was so much fun. I could not stop laughing. But the other thing I was going to say is that the majority of that whole night was alcohol free. We had so much alcohol in that house, but and after the event, me and my husband said, God, should people bring their own liquor? Because there's hardly, I mean, and I said, no, because people were having fun. And that's the thing is when you're having fun, all the endorphins and all this great stuff that's happening in your brain, the energy that we're talking about, the openness, it just changes, and you're more open and you're more receptive, and it just makes the world a better place.
It sure does. I mean, Mary Poppins was onto something.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I just want to say thank you so much, Amanda. And your website, before we jump off today, you've got a beautiful website, and you also have a free giveaway that you give on your website too.
I do. So you can go check it out at amandakaufman.net. And one of my most powerhouse habits is my weekly review.
And it's
most people don't do the weekly review right.
Right. I'm all about that weekly review. I'm all about that weekly review, but it is.
You go to my website, you can pull down that checklist, and it just helps
awesome.
you make sure that you're doing the thinking that goes with it. It's not just about putting as many things on your calendar and to-do list as
You
as
have
you
to
can.
you have to plan time to think. And that's one of the things I say about myself is I am always thinking. I am always thinking. And you have to be thinking. And I love it. You're amazing. I am so blessed to know you. Thank you for sharing. We already have people that are saying, great nuggets. This is awesome.
That's
so
awesome.
What
My
I say
pleasure.
all the time is, if you're watching live, if you're watching on recording, and anything that we said has touched you, please share it. Please get this to people that you know need to hear this information, because you and your best self, those habits that you're dealing with right now, you really want, and we want you to go to a higher level, and having that knowledge and sharing that knowledge with other people will help them succeed faster as well. So until we meet again next Monday at 3 p.m. Central, be big, be bold, and most importantly, be you.